Hi, I'm Alex. I am a designer and animator in LA, and in this video, I'll be going over my process for a recent hiker walk cycle that I worked on. I was inspired to make this video because of all of the awesome tutorials that other motion designers have put out that have helped me. So I hope that in some way that this video can help other people by sharing my process. For this video, I really wanted it to be a very in-depth look at my process. And so it'll be a time lapse of my walk cycle from start to finish, with parts of me commentating over the time lapse, showing how and why I do certain things, and then part of it just being straight time lapse of me working. So whether you're animating a walk cycle for the first time and want to watch the whole thing, or if you're just looking for a very specific part of my process, I hope that this video is helpful for you. And with that, let's get into it. So I'm going to import my project, my illustration, and then reduce its transparency, and then start drawing on top of it. I have my passing pose, that's the one that's in the transparency, but I'm going back and I'm editing it so now I can have my contact pose as well. So I can kind of flip through my passing pose and my contact pose, and that will give me the outline for the first outline for what my walk cycle is going to look like. So, okay, how am I feeling about this? I decide that the leg needs to be spread a bit wider. So I move that part back. Preview again. And now I'm just adding more poses in between that. And now I have the walk cycle together, but if you see, the legs are popping from one side to another. So I decide to move them so that they stay in one place instead of having the body kind of move from the left to the right. There'll be less body movement, which could be either a good thing or a bad thing. But in this case, I liked the lack of body movement. It just made animating it easier. Here I'm using guides to make sure that the feet are sliding back properly. You want them sliding back at a consistent rate, or else you'll run into problems if you're trying to move the walk cycle forward. The legs will slip and won't look like they are kind of hovering above the ground, which you want to avoid. I'm using the oval as a guide to map out the body so that when I go in with the next step and clean up the legs with the body, that I can kind of unify them into one shape. I'm really focusing on kind of that in-between part of the legs and trying to round it out properly here. And I failed a couple times and ended up going back and reworking it. Some of that I kept into this tutorial, and some of that I edited out for time. Here now I'm adding on the boots on top. And then I'm just gonna clean up the legs of the boots because the legs in my roughs were a bit large. Previewing, fixing. I do so much of that. Maybe too much, I don't know, but. Okay, so here I'm starting on the arm. I'm making the arm a symbol, and this makes it easier because I only have to worry about animating the arc of the arm on its own. I don't have to worry about accounting for the up and the down of the body at all. So here I'm just animating the ease of the arm. You can see there's more frames at the edges of the arm swing than in the middle, and that makes it move faster in the middle and then ease into the corners. It's not easing as much as I want, so I make it a bit more extreme. And I'm kind of having the bicep of the arm slow more than the forearm, and then I'm having the forearm kind of slow after that, giving it that kind of follow through motion. Here, I'm using the symbol to pick the first frame. You want to have that down frame of the arm on the passing pose. End up messing with this frame, but I think I end up actually going back to the original one that I chose, 8, 9, and then I change it back to 7. I'm like, no. And here I'm doing the up and down for the body. Just moving the symbol to account for the up and down. Now I have a moving arm. Here's another part where I fail. Trying to do this back arm with the stick. It's a lot of moving parts at once, and I think I kind of just hopped into it without really knowing where I was going with it. And I end up kind of quitting this direction. I end up just focusing on the stick because the stick is leading the movement. Okay, get the stick looking okay. And then I decide, you know what, for the arm, I'm just gonna bring this into After Effects and use rubber hose because it was essentially what I wanted to do and I wasn't able to accomplish it frame by frame, so why not use this other tool that I know? So just use rubber hose and animate the arm that way. Made it a bunch easier, I feel. Had to fix it a little bit, but. And then I'm just tracing over that for the most part. Funny part is like you won't even see most of this, so I guess I didn't really need to put this much effort into it, but I did. I like doing the full thing even if I don't have to, so that if anything needs to change about the body later, I still have that part hidden behind it that can be shown. So next I'm starting on the head, and if you notice I'm drawing things over the head, and this is because later I plan on masking them out so I can do a head turn. And this red part is me masking those parts out. Here I'm moving the head up and down outside of the symbol. Same thing for the hat and make it a symbol. Don't really need to, but just in case I need to make any edits to the hat or want any like internal animation in the hat, it helps just to have it be a symbol. Here I'm turning all of the inner parts of the heads into symbols in case I need to edit them. And I'm doing my first head turn, so I'm just moving all of these, easing it out one direction to the other. And I'm picking the right frame for where I want this head turn, how I want this head turn to work. And now I'm working on a blink within my eye symbol. So I can just work on a blink independently. Don't have to worry about the head turn. Don't have to worry about the ups and downs. I can just work on this blink and it will automatically track to the head turn and the ups and downs because it's layered within my other symbols. I duplicate it to make it work for the other eye. And I look at this and I'm like, whoa, it looks like he's shaking his head no. This is not the vibe. And so I reduced the amount of head turn that I give him. I want it to be a little bit more subtle. And I have to synchronize the symbols. This is just when you're like messing with the symbols. Sometimes they can get out of sync with each other. So I go ahead and synchronize them both so that they both are matching up properly. Here's another place where I fail. I add the backpack. And I think I'm starting to notice right here, like, okay, how is the backpack gonna work with this arm? Because this arm is like so much farther forward than the backpack strap right now. But I'm just working through it. I'm like, okay, I'll deal with that when I get there. And then I get there and I start messing with the backpack strap. I'm like, oh God, this isn't working. Yeah, and looking back on it, I mean, really what I needed to do here, if I wanted the arm to pop out like that, it would have been a whole body turn. So the backpack would have needed to turn as well, not just the strap. But I'm not really sure that was what I was going for. I just kind of fell into that. And so I finally decided, no, I need to have the arm rotate in the straps. The arm can't move from its pivot point. So I make this circle to anchor the arm, and then I rotate the arm around that circle so it can rotate in the strap. So I don't have to animate the strap at all. And this is where the symbol's really nice because I can just edit this in the symbol. And then now, okay, much happier with this arm. Add the sleeve, it's pretty straightforward. And editing the bounce of the backpack. Just flipping through it. I do this a lot. I edit a lot of this out, but I'm just flipping through it, making sure when it goes on the down, it's overlapping properly and then coming up when I'm flipping through it, seeing how I feel about the motion. And I move on to the last thing, which is just adding these pockets. And there my rough is done. So now I'm bringing it into Photoshop to clean it up. I ended up cutting out a lot of the cleanup process. I just showed this one bit because it's really repetitive. I'm just drawing over it a bunch of times, trying to keep my line weight consistent and trying to keep my lines consistent. Here I'm going through and filling my lines so I have fills. I'll show you why I do this later. And I do this for all of the fills for the body. Here I'm making my texture. This is what I'm gonna mat on top of those fills that I did. And this is just gonna be a 4-frame looping texture. This is so my cleanup process is a lot easier. I can just reuse this 4-frame looping texture over and over again to mimic as if I like hand drew in each of the frames, but without actually having to hand draw in each of the frames, because that would take forever. And this is really nice because I can just use this once, and then I can use the fill effect in After Effects to change the color of it for the different parts of my animation. So I separated all of the lines out onto different layers. I separated all the fills out into different, not layers, into different Photoshop files. So I'm gonna import all of my outlines as independent Photoshop files. And I'm gonna import all of my fills as independent Photoshop files. And then the last step is to add that texture on top and just mat it to the fill for the layer. And then use the fill effect to change the color of it, which you'll see me do in a sec. Boom. Do that for all of the layers and you have a walking guide.